Right. Let's begin with the president's speech broadcast yesterday with regards to the scarcity of the Naira. There's been divergent reactions, especially with regards to the fact that the matter is still at the Supreme Court. I wonder what your impressions are as a learned silk with the president's decision to make a statement, because there are those who are criticizing him for making a statement, knowing that this matter is in court. And he went ahead to say that he respects the rule of law. And there are those who have also questioned that. From his speech, would you say that the president has actually respected the rule of law?
Well, let me say that in a democracy where there is a right to speak freely, there's bound to be divergence of views, as you have heard. And but I think that the principle about respecting and awaiting the outcome of a court decision sometimes has been stressed, if I may use that word. And there's also a lot of jurisprudence and scholarship about when where the boundaries of contempt lie in actions done and in things said. And this is, of course, not to be misunderstood that I am suggesting that, oh, you can do anything while a case is pending. I know better. But one of the examples I offered when we were having this conversation yesterday was that, look, listen, if I shot the door on your finger and you went to court to say that, look, the court should direct me to open the door. And I said, okay, let's wait for the outcome of the court decision. And you are in pain. And people are in pain. The question to ask is, if I attempt to open that door, would you, the person in pain, be saying I'm acting in contempt? Or would you gladly have me open the door and then we can go back to court and say, look, the matter, we have resolved it? And that is another angle to look at this thing, because I think that whatever interventions the president sought to make were interventions in response to the very palpable pain. And I think he said that much in his speech about the unintended consequences of the policy. So that's as far as I am willing to comment about that and the court case.
The matter has gone to a situation where it is seen by many as a party fighting against itself. That the president is the head of the APC, a presidential candidate is running, and people are saying, look, this man is doing it because he wants to throw a wrench or to throw a cat among the pigeons of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed, because there's consequence. There's consequence to government action. It is seen by some as a political suicide.
Well, you know, for me, I always try to see the positive side of things. So my first reaction to this conversation is that it enriches our democracy. It clearly shows that men of courage and men of character are standing up to be counted within their own government and within their own party to say, no, I don't agree with this. People have found, or people who have had voices, clearly have not lost their voices. Somebody like Asiwaju, because he's seeking the presidency, has not lost his voice. His well-known voice of being an agitator, an activist, somebody who fights on the side of the people when there seems to be no help. And this has been his typology and character. So he's saying, no, yes, this is my party, this is our policy, but it's causing pain. So let us look at it. And it is not convenient. He hasn't taken the convenient road to say, let me just keep quiet so that I don't appear to be upsetting people or I don't appear to be upsetting my party. So, and that is the type of president Nigerians are now being offered a chance to elect from the same party with a different typology. Now, the other part of this, of course, is to then ask ourselves that in about 3 election cycles, we have had a major interface with our central banks and our central bank governor. I remember, I think it was in the run-on to the 2015 election that the central bank governor was removed. And we're having this now. And the question to ask ourselves is, hey, how political is our central bank getting? On the one hand, it was a central bank governor then saying, look, things are not going right. And the president goes in and removes him. On the other hand, now is the central bank governor making policies clearly supported by law, but stating that, look, I want to do this for this reason and for that reason. I don't see those reasons in the law. So the question to then ask is, has the law been used for a policy seeking to achieve an objective that is not within the law? Yes, it is possible that the law can say, go and do this and go and do that, but those subsequent consequences are matters of reflection and report after you have finished implementing the policy. They do not become the objective of the policy because those objectives are not set out in the law. And so, whilst we're always quick, and this is an invitation to Parliament, whilst we're always quick to quickly amend our electoral act, and I think this is the time to stand back and say, hey, as our politics left our central banking and related laws behind, can we look at them again in order to ensure protection for people? And this is the dynamism of law and lawmaking, and this is an invitation for the next assembly to have a look at it again and see how best we can ensure that these things no longer reoccur. Of course, for me, I have asked myself, and I find it difficult to accept that the law, the central bank law, allows what is happening to have happened. Because what has happened essentially has been a mop-up of currency. And it seems to me that the Central Bank Act does not intend or contemplate a mop-up of currency. It actually contemplates, in my view, a swap of notes. So when you declare, for example, that a particular denomination of currency is going to be taken out of circulation, the law, if you look at it, it uses the word replace at face value. So it means that every time I bring 100 naira, if you say that is the one you want to change, you must give me a new 100 naira back. You can't say I should bring all the money I have. That is outside the contemplation of the law.
So you are saying
and this is,
you are saying in essence that what has happened is extortion.
Well, I didn't use those words. You can interpret them. I'm just saying that it's not supported, doesn't seem to be supported by the law. And clearly, to some extent, the policy as announced by the central bank was with the intent to change, I think, the 500, if I recall, the 200 and the 1,000. It said nothing at all about the 1,000 naira note. So I would have assumed that if there was some difficulty with implementing those policies as contemplated by the law, perhaps a middle ground would have been to double down on the supply of the 100 naira notes that were clearly not affected by the policy, as I recall them to have been stated. And perhaps that would have been a mitigant. So instead of me having one 500 naira note, for example, I would be happy to have 5 100 naira notes. But back to the fundamental question, if you look at the policy and the law, what it contemplates is not a mop-up of currency, but a replacement of face value as I bring them in. And perhaps that is why some commentators on this matter have said, oh, this thing is different from the way they do it in Europe, or this thing is different from the way they do it in America. And I suspect that if you make comparisons of the Banking Act in England and the equivalent in the US, you might find similarity with our Section 23, and perhaps in interpreting our Section 23, the CBN may have overreached itself and gone beyond what the law intended. Because don't forget, I think that it was either Central Bank Governor Lamido, Sanusi, or Soludo. We changed notes not quite some 15 or so years ago, and it didn't cause this much pain. So something has gone wrong somewhere, and I think that this will be a very, very steep learning curve for Nigeria. But my biggest fear is the consequence on the banking institution as a whole in Nigeria post this exercise. That's my biggest fear. And the earlier all of us involved sat down to look at the more unintended consequence, I fear that we do not have a run on the banks.